Hello and welcome back. My name is Glenn Keller, and in this demonstration, what we're doing is we're going to install an Oracle database to support a Teamcenter installation. The Oracle version that we have to install is going to be 19C for 2512, and this has been the same version since roughly 14.3. So you get a lot of stabilization with what version of Oracle that you're going to be using, and you won't have to upgrade that if you're going between those versions. Now, in our case, we've set this up preemptively so that we can speed up and talk about the very specific things that we need to consider with Teamcenter. How we've done that is we've created this Oracle folder in here. And Oracle is essentially just a database. It is comprised of a couple of things, a listener as well as a database. And that database is going to have specific users in it and tables to populate metadata with. So what we want to do is we want to take our Oracle instance or Oracle server and we want to modify it so that we can include Teamcenter specific templates. Now, during the installation of the Oracle server, which is just a generic installation, essentially what I did was I downloaded the media. I came and threw the media in this app Oracle software folder, and this is extracted media. And then I came down and I executed the application setup. So when I did that, it basically asked me where I would like the server to be installed. And in my case, I created this server folder and then installed it here. So again, you can install Oracle how you need to, just make sure that it's a supported way for the Teamcenter environment. In this case, it's a single box instance, and I'm only really running one instance of Oracle, so this will do for me. Now, if I'm going to be installing Oracle, then I really need to go in and get what are called Teamcenter templates. The Teamcenter templates are going to allow me to essentially install a database that already has many of the tables and users required by the Teamcenter installation for 2512. If I don't do this next step first, I could install a general purpose database, but then my installation is going to take a lot longer because it needs to create all the tables before it can populate them. So really, I'm choosing to offload the time it takes to do the tasks. I'm breaking that up. So it's a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, instead of just one massive install. So to do that though, what I need to do is I need to go out to my installation media, and inside of my C apps media Siemens software location, then I need to grab Teamcenter 2512's folder, and there'll be a TC folder in here. Now, the DB scripts folder inside of there contains the scripts needed for MSSQL, the Oracle server, or DB2 server. Now, the supported two are MSSQL and Oracle. In Oracle, if we dive in, it will contain all of those templates, and if you really open these up and take a look, it's creating the InfoDBA user account or the administrative account in Teamcenter. It's going through and it's pre-creating some of the tables needed and making sure that it is not populated. It also supplies templates for Oracle as well as Oracle multi-tenant depending on your setup. In our case, we're doing the lowest viable product. So what is the bare minimum to get it stood up? And then you can consult with a DBA or your team to scale and set it up to your process. Bare minimum though, we're going to grab these templates and copy them and then take them to the server folder. So I'm just going to come in here, and you can see I've got the Oracle server folder right here. And there's the server, but there's really no place to put them. When you do the installation of the Oracle database, it's going to pull from another place. It's going to be inside of the software folder and assistants, DBCA, and then you'll have templates. So this is where the templates are actually built or sourced from, and I'm going to paste all of the Teamcenter templates there. So now when I launch Oracle, I will see the Teamcenter option in the list to select from. So I'm going to close these. I've basically added my templates and I'm ready to go ahead and install the Oracle components. Inside of my Start menu, when I installed the Oracle server, you can see I have my Oracle 19 Home 1. It is an Oracle server, not an Oracle client. And then I have a couple of different UIs. The two required UIs that I'm going to use for basic Teamcenter are going to be the Net Configuration Assistant, which is down here, and then the Database Configuration Assistant, which is up here. When you're looking at Teamcenter as a whole, let's say this represents all of Teamcenter. Teamcenter as a whole will interact back and forth to a database for every call or request or session. So this database is going to be sitting in the background, whether it's MSSQL or Oracle. Now, if it's Oracle database, then you also have this little listener sitting here. And a listener can support multiple databases, but the listener is actually what's talking to the database and handling the request to the database. And these paths are going to here. So we need to get a listener. We can install the listener as a part of the database installation, but I do like to do this kind of piecemeal just to show and break out the individual components. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and create the listener first. As we go through the database installation, you'll see there'll be a point where we can confirm the linkage for that listener. So I'm going to come into the Net Configuration Assistant. This is a very fast installation. It's only going to take a couple of minutes. The listener configuration is what I need. I'm going to choose Next. I'm going to add, which will be my only option unless I had others. I can change the listener name if I want to. I could call it the TC listener. In this case, I'm just going to keep it there, but you could do something like Teamcenter listener if you have multiple listeners in your configuration. Hit Next. TCP is the communication type that we're going to be using for Teamcenter. And then the standard port is 1521 for this. Now, each company is going to have its own recommendations, but typically you don't use the standard default ports. So make sure that you choose another port number if you're not developing this in a dev or training environment. If you're using prod, use another port number and change that value. Choose Next. In our case, I'm using 1521. And then it's asking me if I want to do another. I say no. And then it will go in and create the listener for me. It'll give me the option to finish, and then I'll close the box. So it created it there. I'm going to click Finish. And then if I go into the Services window and pull this up, go down into the O's, and you'll see the Oracle DB19 listener is here, and it actually is up and running. Now, a couple of considerations when you've created that are go into where the listener gets installed and look at its control files. So going into Oracle software, go into the network folder and then the admin, and there'll be different folders. The listener.ora folder file is what I'm going to be taking a look at here. And then I want to make sure that it's picking up on the right value here. So just take note that the value that it picks up on in this case is the backend IP. So if I want to use a DNS and use host names or fully qualified host names, I could change that out. Since this is an Amazon instance, if I shut it down and start it up, that front end IP changes, backend should stay the same. So this should be good, but definitely one of the key files that you need to look at just in case you're in a environment that you're stopping and starting and the IPs change. All right, so I've got my listener there. I am ready to go ahead and install my database now. I'm going to go ahead and go into that Oracle home folder again. Go to Database Configuration Assistant. And then it's going to load the Oracle Universal interface. So this is the OUI. I'm going to create a database off of this, and this hasn't really changed much. I'm going to do an advanced installation so I can pick my templates. And then I'm going to do an Oracle single instance database. you can see there's a bunch of templates here. There were 2 added because I copied my templates in. Teamcenter Oracle and Teamcenter Oracle Multi-Tenant. So I'm going to go ahead and select the bare minimum, again, the Teamcenter Oracle server. So I'm going to choose Next, and then it's going to know some values that it should have. So for instance, because I chose that, the database name, or the SID, is going to be listed here. Now, some companies will change the SID. This is the unique identifier for this database. If you have a lot of databases deployed, it helps you track which database you're communicating to. Some companies will change this to something like TC Train, or TC Train 01, or something along those lines. So just take note that even though we're going to choose TC for ours, just so that it helps with you walking through documentation, kind of lines up to the default examples, that value can vary in different environments, and you should ask your DBAs what that value is if they've already set this database up for you. So in our case, we're going to keep TC. I am not going to create this as a container database. So I'm just going to create this as a single database. It's not going to be used for consolidating multiple databases. I'm going to choose Next, and then in here I'm going to use the template file for database storage attributes, and notice it's referencing the Teamcenter Oracle template to use. Go ahead and choose Next here. I could specify a fast recovery area for recovering the database. If you are going to specify this, just make sure that you increase this to something like 9096 for the base, because otherwise it isn't going to have enough space for the fast recovery area and your SGA and PGA sizes. So if you are going to keep this, which I'll go ahead and keep it for this case, it's going to build this recovery for the database. I doubled the fast recovery area size so that I'll have enough space. I'm going to click Next. Now it picks up on my listener. Notice I could have created a new listener at this point, but my listener is already there. I'm going to choose it and choose Next. Now, you could go in and look at the different table spaces and see who owns what. By default, you don't have to do this in Teamcenter. This is way more in lines with what the DBAs should be taking a look at and what your specific setup needs. Choose Next. Now, again, in this setup, you have sizing, character sets, etc. And you just need to make sure that your national character set is set correctly for your environment. In this case, it's UTF-16 is what I have, and then you've got UTF-8 sitting here. I can also control things like my dedicated server mode or shared server mode. In this case, the client connections are really the goal. How do you want them to be able to connect? In our case, we just say dedicated. And then you can add sample schemas to the database if you were doing some of that work. But again, for Teamcenter, all I need to do is specify my automatic shared memory management. I'm not going to modify this in any way, shape, or form here. This is the sizes for my tables and my database, SGA and PJ. So this will be good. I can turn on auto scaling and make it grow as I'm importing data later, but just again, refer to the docs, the best practice guides provided by Siemens, and set up your database accordingly for your production data. I'm going to go ahead and choose Next. For a training environment, that'll work just fine. And then it'll initialize. I'm not going to be using Enterprise Manager Database Express. Way back when in Teamcenter 11, 12, I would have issues with this if I installed it. I don't need Express. I'm just going to uncheck it and choose Next. Now I have passwords. So again, in a real world environment, the database users are going to have different passwords for security reasons. Again, in this training instance, I'm just going to come down here and click same administrative password for all accounts. Do not do this for security reasons. If you are worried about this or working anywhere but a VM, make sure that the passwords are set correctly and make sure that your security is maintained. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose my password as InfoDBA. Big warning, this is not best practice. Oracle doesn't recommend this format. It's just for ease of remembering as we're demonstrating, but that's the password I'm using in this case. This is okay. It will run just fine. but make sure that you pick a strong password that is going to match. So it'll warn me again. I'm going to continue. Don't do that if you're worried about it. All right, so it's going to create my database script, SQL script here, and I could go back and get that, so it's creating it in the assistance directory. I'm going to go ahead and choose next, and then it will summarize everything for me, and I can click finish. So this installation typically takes about a half hour, 45 minutes, depending on what you're running, where you're running, and how much you're running. But once it's done, we can run a command line to log into the database, and we can see a couple of different things. We can make sure that we can connect. We can check our different users. If you wanted to, you could set the accounts to not expire in a development environment, but don't do that in any important environments because then you're opening yourself up to risk. Make sure that you're following the password policies and making sure you secure your environment. Again, as always, fall back to the Siemens documentation for the best practice. All right, so the database is installing at the moment, and we know this is going to be basically the source of all of our metadata in the system. Now, while that's installing, if you are running MSSQL, we'll try and get a video out. We're trying to get that all set up on a different server for you. But in the meantime, if I come out to the installation media, so we'll go to Media, Siemens, Software, Teamcenter 2512, the TC, and the DB scripts. The MSSQL folder has all of this, but really what this is a create database template script. So that's really what I need. I'm going to take this if I'm building an MSSQL server. I'm going to take this and copy it and paste it. That way I have the original still sitting here. Then I'm going to rename it and just make this my SQL file. It'll change the file extension type for me, and then I can edit this in my editor. So if you're going through MSSQL, if you have the MSSQL server already installed, then you can come through and then create the database this way. So in here, there's a couple of different values you'll want to supply. So in here, it kind of gives you a cool little shortcut. What we're going to do is we're going to populate this file. And notice when I highlighted that, there's a bunch of instances in here all the way down the file. So I don't want to go find each one of those. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight this @to value, do a control find, and then I'm going to replace that value with my value. So my database name in this case would be TC to match all lowercase, to match what I would be doing in Oracle. I don't need to do this if I'm doing Oracle. So one database, it's just different options. Now, if I do that, replace all, then the whole file changes and it replaces it everywhere. So now I'm seeing it here, 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 etc. So now I know that I have completed that first one and I can go to the data path. So this will be the path to the directory the data file will live. And this is essentially where do you want to install your SQL server. So I could say ctemp SQL server. And that'll be it. So notice that if I click off of this, it didn't update it. So I'm going to copy that, Control Z it, find that, and then replace it up here so that it updates everywhere. And now the path to all these files will be right here. Now, temp's probably not the greatest directory you're going to want to put your database in, but definitely pick a folder location that's going to be secure and going to be used as your database. So username, in this case, I'm going to do a control find, and I'm going to replace this with the InfoDBA user, replace that all the way across, and then the password for that user is going to be, if I copy this and do a find and replace, InfoDBA. So if I'm using the user, this is not the Teamcenter administrative user, this is the database user, and I need to make sure that I'm connecting to the database the correct way. The collation in the language, this is going to be specific to your server and your database selections. Once you get all of these replaced, then you save the file and execute it inside the Microsoft SQL Server to create your database. And that is essentially the Microsoft SQL setup. Now, if you're using Microsoft SQL versus Oracle, definitely has its own server setup, and you'll want to make sure that you have multi-authentication mode turned on in the SQL Server setup to support Teamcenter. Definitely refer to those documentation on the Siemens site. All right, so now that we've got the database scripts investigated, we've got our Oracle database kicked off, we're going to go ahead and pause here, and we'll pick back up once the database creation completes. All right, the database completion has finished. You can see that here. I'm going to go ahead and drag it off. A couple of things in here. It'll tell you where the parameter file is, what the SID was. You can even go into password management. I'm going to go ahead and click close here. A couple of things that'll result from this is inside of here, if I refresh my services window since it was already up, you'll see that I now have my TC SID on a few of these. This is the Oracle service that actually is the database itself, and it's up and running. Other files that we'll want to take note of are inside of the Oracle installation. If I come in here, go back into that software network admin location, there will be a tnsnames.ora file, and I'll edit this and just make sure that it's picking up on that backend IP, which it is. So you can change that to the host name, fully qualified, whatever be the case, just make sure you change both instances of it so you can see the top one and the bottom. And make sure that once you get Teamcenter installed, the TNS names that's in the TC data matches what this is. Otherwise, you can get database communication issues. I'm going to go ahead and close all of these. I'm not going to save the changes I made to that template, and I'm going to close that out. So now Oracle should be up and running. I'm going to come into a command prompt, just a basic one. I'm going to open it up with admin, and I'm going to do a couple of tests to make sure this is running the way that we want. So I'm going to run SQL plus and then system infodba at TC, identify the database I want. So when I do that, I can log into it. So I know the database is up and running. If I exit, I also pre-populated the database with the templates from Teamcenter, which created my InfoDBA account. So I should be able to come in here and say SQL plus InfoDBA at TC. And it creates it or logs in just fine. So if you go to log in to a database that's been set up for Teamcenter and you can't log in with InfoDBA like this, then you have a general purpose database. If you can, then you either have a database that's been set up correctly for the install or a database that is already actively being used for an install. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. The system and InfoDBA users are the two that we care about the most. And now we have successfully created an Oracle database to support our installation of Teamcenter 2512. In the next demos, we're going to take this further and learn about more prerequisites as we dive into the world of installing Teamcenter 2512.